Excellent day, everyone. Great to have a chance to say hello to you again. As you know from the previous recording, if you did watch it or you're watching this for the first time, as you saw, my name is Dr. Harry Benjamin, transformational teacher and speaker. And I'm greatly thankful and very, 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 very grateful for the opportunity to actually be able to be speaking to you and be on this platform and sharing with you from my experience, and also seeking to help you as well to achieve and attain a higher level, a deeper level of inner peace, joy, and actually have more abundance in your life. So for me, it's been a wonderful journey, and it's really been amazing what's been taking place and has happened over the last few years, not just for myself, but for others, and those who have taught me, those who I'm learning from, and also those who have been teaching. The results have been amazing, and as we progress, I'll interview some others so that you could actually recognize that there are other people applying these principles and gaining from them as well. So hopefully you'll be inspired to do the same. So today's talk is a continuation of the topic, is it possible to be happy all the time? And I'll say, yes, it is possible to be happy all the time. We spoke a bit about that last week, and we started to speak about the first of 5 principles that are related to our happiness. 5 principles or laws that are related to us being happy. And the first one is thought. We spoke a bit about thought, and we fleshed some aspects of thought out and explained how thoughts sort of just jump up into our awareness. And pretty much discussing that there are 2 broad groups of thought that enter our awareness. One of them comes from what you'll hear me repeatedly say, the sea of mental garbage, and the other one comes from heaven, so to speak, or that higher realm of existence where thoughts of love and peace and joy and wisdom and creativity, genius, innovativeness and resourcefulness come from. So what we want to help us to do over time is to, 1, recognize these 2 groups and therefore choose the thoughts that are not coming from a sea of mental garbage, but thoughts that are coming from abundance and prosperity, on a high level of being. So it's really wonderful what we have happening here in terms of this conversation. And as you get deeper into this, you'll have more clarity and more wisdom and more understanding about how it is that you, ladies and gentlemen, can achieve a deeper sense of peace and joy and actually have more abundance show up in your life. So thought, looking at it from this standpoint, 1, start to practice looking at the contents of your mind. It takes some effort, it takes some practicing meditation so that you could actually start to see what thoughts are flowing through your mind and be able to pick and choose which one we will say. Now, we do this to some extent. We do pick and choose what we're going to say or not going to say on this basis. Usually we try to make sense or try to make what we're saying sound intelligible. So what tends to happen is that a lot of the nonsense that comes up in the human mind, we don't say. Oftentimes, if you've ever had the experience of seeing somebody who would call a mad person, all right, you see somebody on the street, you call them a mad person, and you hear them just talking all sorts of rubbish. They're just speaking randomly, meaning that anything that comes up in their mind, they're saying it. So if you think about this, if someone was to plug something into your mind, like a loudspeaker, okay, and that loudspeaker now could be, people could hear what's going on inside your mind, you'll be pretty embarrassed because it's very random. And what happens is that the mind, the din of human thinking has a lot of confusion happening in terms of how it functions. It's very random. And if you start to pay attention to it, you realize that there's really no coherence to it. So these thoughts come about over time. And it starts out when we're children. When we're little children, our mind is pretty much blank. Children tend to not have a lot of thought processes happening. And as experience happens over time, we start to have points of views. We start to develop opinions. We start to have, preferences. We start to call things right and wrong. And so we develop thought systems. And these thought systems occupy our mind. And as these thought systems are occupying our mind, we're starting to use these thought systems as the way we relate to our world. And what has happened to most of us is that we got lost in the process of it. We got lost in just allowing these thoughts to think us. We're literally being thought through by this conditioning. We know most of us are not slowing down to really assess the thoughts that are coming up in the mind, and most of us just speak them. So what we want to recognize is that thoughts are thoughts. Don't take them personally. They're there collectively. A lot of them, from different experiences that we have had, and they try to make sense out of the sensory data that comes into us. So if you see something, your mind immediately tries to describe what you're seeing. If you hear something, your mind immediately tries to make sense of it. And it's offering you patterns of thought based on previous experience. So that's generally how it functions. So what we want to do is to assess the quality of what's coming up. All right? Meaning this, when a thought comes up, start to practice. As it comes up, you start to practice this. Start to practice. Is this thought going to tear down, or is this thought going to build up? All right? Either build up a person, or build up a circumstance or a situation, or is it going to tear down? So you pay attention to it so that you don't let something that's going to tear down come out of your mouth. All right? Because it's going to later on determine your experience. Thoughts will ultimately determine the way you perceive. Your perceptions ultimately determine how you experience life. Either you experience it through your imagination, meaning that you're experiencing it in your body, or the experience may have manifested. So it's now not just your experience, meaning you or me, but now people around us are also experiencing what we were thinking before. So it's important to evaluate them. So you're paying attention. Is this coming from the sea of mental garbage? Right? Or is it coming from a place of love, of abundance, of prosperity? So you start to be wise in what it is that you're going to now say out of your mouth. Now, as you start to access this, you'll start to realize that, you start to actually have dominion. In Genesis, in the Bible, it speaks about having dominion over the things that crawl on the earth and those that fly in the sky, right? It speaks about creepy crawly stuff and, beasts of the field and birds of the sky. It's really an analogy to say to us that you have dominion over the base thoughts, those negative, low thoughts, and you have dominion over those high thoughts. So what we're encouraged to do is to choose those high ones. But before you can choose them, you have to pay attention to what's coming through. So as you start to practice this, you'll pay attention to thoughts, because what happens to most people is that they let these thoughts grab hold of them and just say something, especially when you're in a situation with somebody. Somebody says something to you that you don't like, your mind offers you a response, and bam, you say it, right? Or something happens to you and your mind offers you a response, bam, you say it. So with practice over time, you'll be able to see the content that's floating through your awareness. And when somebody does something, you will slow down and choose what to respond with, rather than react to what they said based on what your mind offered you. Because your mind is designed to quickly give you a reaction response when something happens to you. So by slowing down, right, there's a statement that said, a slow answer turneth away wrath, right? And don't be quick to respond, be slow. So you're taking your time to evaluate the content of what's passing through and therefore offering something better. The next thing that we'll look at is, understanding this process of thought. There's something called spirals, right? Where thoughts are concerned. And you need to pay close attention. This is why. Thoughts are dovetailed. Thoughts are dovetailed into each other. All right? This is what I mean. So when a thought comes to us, something gentle, something very simple, not light, like, okay, let's just use this as an example, right? So somebody, bothers you, and, the thought says, so why are you bothering me? All right? Just simple that. Just something subtle. Why are you bothering me? And as that one little thought comes, it's not much yet, but if you pay attention to it and say, why is he or she bothering me? Then what happens now is that thought is dovetailed into a slightly bigger one. And then the next one is dovetailed into a bigger one, into a bigger one, into a bigger one. What do I mean by dovetail? Let me show you a dovetail. If a big ship is about to dock in a harbor, real big ship, right? They have this big rope that they put around the mooring on the dock. They tie the rope around the mooring and it keeps the ship tied so it doesn't move. Now, when the ship is at the side of the pier, they can't throw the big rope over to the guy on the dock because it's too big for him to throw or for him to catch it. So they throw a very small one to him that he can now catch. And when he catches that one, that rope is dovetailed into a slightly bigger one, a slightly bigger one. So he's pulling it in until he's able to hold a really big one and put it around the mooring, and the ship docks itself. Thoughts operate in the very same manner. So when you put your attention on a small one, what happens is that your attention is on that small one. Then as you pay attention to that, it brings along those of like kind, and they start to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So if the first one is negative, right? You know, why is someone bothering me? I'm annoyed, I'm irritated. They always do this, before, they did this yesterday, they did it the week before. And before you know it, you're in a spiral. And the spiral is taking you down. Before you know it, you feel down. You wonder, why am I feeling so bad? Because you were just paying attention to this little one at the very beginning. So understanding this, guys, is very important. Very, 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 very important to actually pay attention to your mind, the content of your mind. So you're paying attention to it, and you're seeing, is this thought going to build me up, or build up someone, or a circumstance, or a situation, or is it going to tear down? And then by paying attention to this, you can avoid the downward spiral of negative thinking by not getting caught at the first one. The mind, the human mind, has what would be equivalent to maybe a virus in it. Right? So this human mind has the equivalent of a virus in it. And in the mind, ladies and gentlemen, it's this way of, the virus is where to use it. It's something that shouldn't be there. But the way the mind works is that it tends to look for the worst case. So when something happens, if you notice the mind, it always look, what could go wrong? The mind has a tendency to what could go wrong. So what we want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to switch this by practice. That's the other thing that we're fleshing out here, and we're helping each other to have more peace and more joy. So by switching now your attention to you, first you have to notice that the mind has this tendency. Whenever you're offered something, or you tell somebody something good, they come to counter it with something negative or something bad. You say, hey man, I could go ahead and do this. The minute you say you're going to go ahead and do this, somebody, or even your own mind will say, man, you got to be careful. What about if that happens? So there's always the worst case. Case in point, I was with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and we spoke about going to another country to take advantage of this new market that's opening. And he was really excited and real fired up. And the moment that, he realized things were coming through, he was going to get the various things, he said, man, all of a sudden a panic came over him, because his thoughts now started to think about, what if this didn't happen? What if that went wrong? What if that happened? And before you know it, you could spiral down, and you feel so closed up and so negative because of what's happening. So understanding this then, ladies and gentlemen, is important, very important, to then start to retrain your mind to think in this way. To retrain your mind, it will take some time. It will take some time because it has this bad habit that came in over time, or this habit of seeing the worst case, as the first thing to look at. But you have to then start to train your mind to think of, what if it turned out well? What if? Start to ask what's the best that could come from the situation, as opposed to what we're used to, what's the worst that could come from the situation. So we start to ask what's the best that could come from the situation. And then we start to change the way our mind works, and our mind will start to go on a hunt, because the mind is very good at looking for information and bringing you back evidence of what you have sent it to look for. And it starts to go on a hunt. What's the best could happen? What if this turned out really well? What if, what project, what, area in your life you're working on, what if it worked out really well? The mind will start to give you feedback to help you with that. Now, the other thing that we are fleshing out today is moods. So the first principle is thought, and the second principle are moods. Now, moods is a very simple principle, very simple principle. But even though it's simple, once you have caught it and started to practice it, it's going to open up another dimension of life for you. Now, moods, generally, a mood. What's a mood? People say, okay, I'm not in the mood for that today. Or I'm in the mood, so let's do this or let's do that, right? In relationships we hear that a lot, right? If you're married, you'll know I'm not in the mood today or tonight, or if you're married, right? So we're used to that. What mood is, right? So mood, what's mood, right? Mood is those ways that we are. It is like, the best way that I could probably describe this to you is that we have this sunlight inside, right? The sunlight that's always shining. You know, the sunlight is always shining. And when you have a really nice, bright, shiny day, and the sun is nice and it's beautiful outside, you know, when you look at that, the place is just looking awesome, right? Sunlight. But then, when the clouds come, right? Let's say there's about to be a lot of rain, and then the clouds come. There's a lot of dark clouds that come, and they block out the sunlight, and the place looks real dark and gloomy. So the sun is still shining behind the clouds, but the clouds have temporarily come and obscured its presence, and then therefore created a gloomy environment, right? So what happens to us as human beings is that we have these two vacillating areas of moods, right? You know, we move from one to the other without necessarily doing anything. They occur naturally. It's something that occurs on its own. And as a result, we switch from a low mood to a high mood. And they come and go just like the clouds tend to assemble and disassemble, right? There's no pattern or order to it. And it's just a part of human existence. And it really makes it quite, you know, interesting, right? Now, when you understand these two broad groups, low mood and high mood, low mood and high mood. Once you understand that there are low moods and high moods, what we're then doing is seeking to just become aware of these two groups. Become aware, when am I in a high mood and when I'm in a low mood. The challenge we have with low moods is that low moods have linked to them negative thinking. So you'll be in a situation, right? A situation, a particular circumstance or situation, and you're trying to figure out what you should do to improve that situation. When you're in a low mood, the thoughts that are coming into your mind at that time are negative, and you're seeing the situation with those thoughts negatively. So what we should do is to wait, because the mood eventually disappears on its own. Once it disappears and the sunlight of your being starts to shine again, you float up, you're now thinking about the same circumstance. The circumstance has not changed, but now you have access to more positive thoughts, and you'll be able to see the very same circumstance in a positive way, even though the circumstance didn't change. But what changed was the mood. So what we want to practice, my friends, is practice understanding, one, accepting the principle that there are moods. We all have gone through mood shifts from time to time. But what we should learn to do is not to think from low moods. Don't make decisions from low moods. Don't say, well, I'm going to do this, I need to in a low mood. Because generally you don't have access to a higher level of thinking. So what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is just maintain an understanding of this and go into practicing it. As you start to engage and do these principles and put them into practice, what we have spoken about here, what you're learning about here, especially when it relates to moods, you're going to be like, wow. And it's very good for relationships. When you know or you see that your partner is in a low mood, don't say you're in a low mood. Don't say that, all right? But what you should do when they're in a low mood is just step back, you know, and wait for them to come out of the low mood, and then you engage your partner in asking them or trying to relate to them about what it is that you don't want to see happen, or want changes, or what you want done, or how you want to progress or move forward. Because if you go to them in that low mood, you're generally going to end up, you know, some sort of a tussle. And the same thing applies to ourselves. Start to pay attention. Am I in a low mood? Am I in a high mood? And if you're in that high mood, then yes, start planning, start working, start moving. If you find that you're in a low mood, you know, like this morning, I woke up with a little bit of a grogginess around me, you know, before I went into meditation. I had a little groggy mood, you know, and you just by sitting, being still and just being cool, it just disappeared, it disintegrated on its own. So you don't have to do anything to get rid of it. You know, some people, yes, put on some music, you go exercise and stuff like that. You could try to, you know, help to change that. But ultimately, it will go away. It will go away on its own, just like the clouds in the sky. So if you wait it out, and if you fight with it, if you fight with the low mood, and you try to get out of it, what you tend to do is prolong its existence. Because you've now started to put the energy of your being into it, and you're now reinforcing and strengthening that low mood and keeping that energy around you. Okay, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we've covered so far the first two principles. You have three to go: separate realities, you know, emotions, our feelings, and the present moment, our now. Man, I'm so grateful and thankful and excited that you guys are participating in this process with us as we grow together. Man, you know, the best days are yet to come. Things are just getting started here. All in one and all, a movement dedicated to more inner peace, more joy, more abundance in our lives, and having an experience of a lifetime that you've never had before. All right? God bless you all. We'll see you at the top of life, the omnipresent palace. You deserve to be there. For those of us who enjoyed this video, or even if you didn't fully enjoy it, but leave your comments, right? You know, please share it with friends, family, you know, individuals that you know, you'd like to actually learn about what we're talking about. And please subscribe to this channel as well. You know, our goal is to really help more of us as human beings on this planet rise and shine and reveal more of our inner peace, joy, and reveal more abundance. All right. So thank you for your comments. I'm looking forward to reading them. I'll seek to respond to them. I'm having a great time. I hope that you are. God bless you all.